Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. Welcome to this very special event hosted by CFA Society in New York in collaboration with CFA Institute Research and Policy Center. I'm Aaron Manansing. I'm the CEO of CFA Society in New York, and it's a pleasure to welcome all of you here today, our members, distinguished guests, thought leaders, and professionals to what promises to be a memorable event. Today, we not only reflect on the past, but also engage with the present and look ahead to the future. We celebrate two remarkable milestones today: the 80-year legacy of the Financial Analysts Journal and the 60-year legacy of the Research Foundation, both pillars of insight and integrity that continue to shape the global investment community. Our program today is significant and forward-looking. We are bringing together some of the most respected and influential voices in finance to debate a timeless yet timely question: will the equity risk premium in this century resemble that of the last? As markets, technology, and global dynamics continue to evolve, this discussion sits at the very heart of how we understand risk, return, and value creation in the years ahead. It is now my great pleasure to introduce Allison Adams, Head of Research Products and Services at CFA Institute Research and Policy Center. Allison will open our program and set the stage for today's dialogue. Let's give her a round of applause as we welcome her to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. As Aaron mentioned, I am Allison Adams, and I am Head of Research Products and Services for CFA Institute. I also serve as the publisher of the Financial Analysts Journal and the liaison from CFA Institute into the Research Foundation. Happy anniversary to the 80th anniversary to Financial Analysts Journal, and happy 60th anniversary to CFA Institute Research Foundation. And also happy birthday to Jeremy Siegel, Professor Jeremy Siegel, who's with us today. So, thank you very much, CFA Society in New York, for hosting this event today. It's a very special event of the icons of finance who are celebrating the equity risk premium and speaking about that. So I have here the first issue ever of the Financial Analysts Journal. A copy. The original actually is here in this building, and I'm going to just read a little bit from it to give you a little background to how the thinking was when this journal first launched. Volume 1, Number 1. With this first issue of the Analyst Journal, the New York Society of Security Analysts is broadening its activities to include a new quarterly periodical, the purpose of which is to advance the interests of our profession. Although it is designed primarily for members, we hope it'll prove useful to the financial communities of this country. The scope of the journal includes improvements of the statistical techniques used in the analysis of various classes of securities, examination of data and statistics, studies of business indices and financial ratios, investigation of the adequacy of information contained in annual reports for its stockholders, study and refinement of the definitions and terminology used in security analysis, consideration of ethics and standards in the profession, study of regulatory policies of government agencies which affect securities. The journal will encourage thoughtful discussion and debate on topics of current interest to the profession. Our aim is to present both sides of the controversial topics, and discussion is invited in letters from members and others in letters to the editor. So in the spirit of the first issue of the Financial Analysts Journal, I'm thrilled that we're here today at the CFA Society in New York to celebrate, and we are having a debate today from different perspectives on a topic that's core to many of us in our analysis. So when Aaron reached out to me last summer as the CEO of CFA Society in New York, and he knew we were doing a lot of promotion around the Financial Analysts Journal and the Research Foundation's anniversaries, he said, what would you like us to host an event? And I thought, perfect, because that's really where a lot of it all started. It would be at CFA Society in New York. And, it becomes challenging to think, who should we invite and who should we speak, who should speak? And we had, about a year and a half earlier, had recorded an excellent panel with both Financial Analysts Journal authors and Research Foundation authors on the debate of Jeremy Siegel's original book of Stocks for the Long Run, And then also Ed Macquarie's follow-up article in the Financial Analysts Journal, Stocks for the Long Run, Sometimes Yes. And so I thought that probably is the best group to bring together for this very special event. And so we decided, we'll do live from New York, Equity Risk Premium, and we'd also invite a few more of our colleagues to also join the panel. That includes Carla Nunes from Kroll. She's going to be giving the practitioner's perspective. We have Jason Zweig, who is the legendary author who recently wrote an update to Benjamin Graham's Intelligent Investor, where I went to the book signing and I met Benjamin Graham's granddaughter, and she unfortunately was not able to make it tonight, but she does send her regards, so that was really a treat to meet her. And she has a wonderful blog to follow as well on him. And then Amy Resnick, who is also a legendary journalist in asset management, and who will be moderating later today. I also want to mention a few others who are attending today. Luis Garcia Fejo, who is our managing editor of the Financial Analysts Journal, and he's also the research director of the Research Foundation, as well as Stephen Thorley, who is on our advisory council for the Financial Analysts Journal. And he has a paper that's sitting out in the hallway, so if you look for his paper, you'll see it out there. So thank you both also for joining today and supporting. And so I want to say that we are going to have a video playing when I'm done introducing. That is from our CEO, Mark Franklin, who is not able to make it today, but she's extremely supportive of the research that we're producing with the Research Foundation and the Financial Analysts Journal. And she wanted to share a video with you all. So that'll be playing in a moment. I also want to mention that we have cards on some of the tables and also out in the hallway for questions. You can write your questions on the card and someone will collect that. And we also have QR codes. Carla, thank you for holding that up. We have QR codes so you can put your question into the QR code and ask the question as well. And those will be for the end of the day session where we have the open Q&A. And so while the video is playing before that, I want to introduce Professor William Getzman. Will serves as executive editor of the Financial Analysts Journal. He's also a finance professor and faculty director of the International Center of Finance at the Yale School of Management and is extremely prolific, publishing in many, many journals. And I'm sure all of you probably have written his or have read his work. So we're thrilled to have him today, and it's an honor to have him as our executive editor of the Financial Analysts Journal, and he's going to speak for a moment about FAJ. So we'll play the video and then. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marg Franklin, President and Chief Executive of CFA Institute. The year 2025 marks two major milestones for CFA Institute: 80 years of the Financial Analysts Journal and 60 years of the CFA Institute Research Foundation. Both hold well-earned reputations as trusted, credible sources of knowledge for the financial industry. Throughout the year, the CFA Institute Research and Policy Center will celebrate our tradition of research excellence in honor of these two landmark anniversaries. Since its first issue in 1945, the Financial Analysts Journal has been a leader in the investment research. It has published peer-reviewed, high-quality research that helps investment professionals adapt to an ever-changing industry. Today, with support from the CFA Institute Research and Policy Center, it continues to deliver cutting-edge insights that help shape the future of finance. The CFA Institute Research Foundation marks its 60th anniversary of advancing independent, thought-provoking research. As a nonprofit organization, it funds and publishes in-depth studies that strengthen our profession and support investment professionals worldwide. This research upholds CFA Institute's core mission: to promote the highest standards of ethics, education, and professional excellence. It also builds trust in the industry and creates and increases investor confidence, helping to create a stronger global financial system. These milestones remind us why research matters. It drives better decision-making, it sparks innovation, and makes us all better professionals, which ultimately benefits society. Investment professionals rely on trusted insights to serve clients with integrity and expertise. By investing in research and knowledge sharing, we don't just elevate our profession, we improve the financial industry as a whole. As we celebrate these achievements, we also look ahead. The investment profession keeps evolving, but our commitment to rigorous research and professional excellence remains the same.
Well, that was wonderful. All right, I'm going to give another bit of introduction here. It's really sobering to think that this is 80 years of the journal, and it was such an honor for me to be selected to be the editor of the journal, and important to me personally because my first publication in 1986 was in the FAJ, and that got my career started as a finance professor. So it's meant a lot to me personally, and to be part of the production of it, in the maintenance of its standards. It's been terrific. I want to do some further thanking because the first thing is, you heard from Marg, the commitment to a journal with truly high standards, standards of refereeing and sort of verification, debate, discussion, is increasingly important in an age where we can get our information dribbled to us and pushed to us, and what do we trust? And so that's what we're trying to do at the Journal, is to maintain a rigorous process of review, evaluation, and a challenging but ultimately quite collegial environment for people to submit papers, and for actually people to review papers and give us feedback as well. So that basic idea of maintaining the standards has been truly important, and it's been that way now for 80 years. On a personal level, of course, if Marg were here, I'd love to thank her directly, but I want to really thank the people that I work with all the time on the Journal. Luis Garcia Fejo is something, he and I worked very close together. He's the managing editor, and we are the first stop for you when you submit a paper. We read your papers, we think about them. Sometimes you don't like the answers you get when you get them back to us, but he's been a true partner with me in this, and it's been great to work with him. Allison, I want to thank too. She's been a wonderful leader as a publisher, and so she runs Flack for all sorts of things that we're not even going to tell you about, but we deeply appreciate the way you've been able to manage the process since I've been editor. And of course, we have two co-editors, associate editors. You can, and they work really hard. So Daniel Giamortis he's in London. He's not going to be here today, but he's extremely valuable editor for us, and Nikki Boyson, who's in Boston as well. And I have to say, Stephen Thorley, for about half of my tenure here so far, has been an additional editor. And I don't know, we always think how we're going to lure you back into this, but we'll talk later. And then Jeannie Cox, thank you very much for all your support and help in this whole process as well. Okay, well, there are other thanks I want to add. The first one is to referees. Most of you don't understand the extraordinary effort that the referees put into this journal. Why? Because their work is only seen by like a handful of people, the editors and then the authors. And yet these things are remarkable pieces of analysis, thought, particularly from those who are in the practitioner area. The sense I get from reading these, we get from reading these referee reports is a desire to maintain the common good that we all share together, which is the journal. And so we don't give out awards for best referees, but like some places do. But believe me, it would be hard to make a decision across all the wonderful referees we've got. And then, of course, to the authors. It's easy for an academic author to say, "Oh, well, I'll write a paper about this, and I'll send it in and get published, and then I'll get enough of those, and I'll get tenure, and then I'll be set." It's not the same for people in practice. You have issues that you have to deal with about how much you can really write and reveal and where the data come from. And so it's a big step for you to decide to write and publish a paper submitted to us. So we really appreciate it because the insights and voice of people who are in practice are what really make this journal different, and also help us focus on what matters in practice, which is, after all, the mission of the journal, which is to publish cutting-edge research, but it has to have practical implications for the practice of investment management. So it's that two intersecting pieces that make a Venn diagram that's a small part, but it requires people to have some knowledge and experience of what matters in the world of investment management. And of course, thanks to the CFA staff. One of the things that is important to us and important to the authors is that they're recognized and the word gets out about what they're doing. And we've had, in the last few years, this has been fantastic, the recognition that our authors have been getting in the public, through press, and so on. That makes a positive difference all around. And it's not just PR, it is communication of things, of articles that are truly of value. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the 75th versus the 80th, because when I first came aboard, it was right after the 75th. I contributed an article about to the FAJ about investment management at that time, but I came aboard right about the time that ideas were forming about the 80th already, and. To give you a bit of background, one of the most interesting articles that we published in that anniversary year was by Andrew Lowe. And Andrew he has a wonderful way of making sense of things. Professor at MIT, one of the thought leaders in our profession, but he went through the journal and tried to identify epochs, big periods where certain kinds of ideas and practices dominated. So I put these in color. I hope you can see them. But it starts off with classical financial analysis, which is, you could hear from Allison's reading, very much focused on kind of a Benjamin Graham idea. Then followed by the shock of the new, striking kind of focus on operations research as the solution to everything. Harry Markowitz is an OR scholar, and that was transformative. From 60s and early 70s, alphas and betas. Then we have derivatives following that, solving a Black-Scholes equation. That introduced a whole new set of tools and worries and challenges, and even some people think a giant crash in the stock market. We're not sure whether that's the case, but it's often thought of that way. Then automation of things, algorithms, letting machines do your trading. Then globalization was a period that he focused on. And digital assets came in the early, in the teens. And finally, digital transformation, which we don't know where that's going, but we're all worried about it, okay? Now, what do we have on the second side? Bruce Jacobs and Ken Levy looked at Andrew Lowe's list, and Andrew had done some casual empiricism, the way he would describe it, about who were the authors that contributed during this time period. And I thought it was a very nice idea to focus on people and who was thinking and contributing during these time periods. Andrew started it, but Bruce and Ken decided to really take this thing seriously. They had typed in all the titles. They separated the surnames of the authors so they really could figure out how to count up who did what. And then they posted this so anybody can go and you can look your own name up if you're an author here. You can see where you rank in the whole list, but you can also see who are the people that were contributing over these epochs that varied so much, all these transformations in our business rather than the sense of continuity. So I'm going to draw a little bit on the fodder that they gave us, and I encourage you to think about how else you might be able to use this, because it's a record of the intellectual activity of the journal. So here's what I did. I went to their website, and I downloaded or I copied all of the top 25 authors by count, which they give you, and then I copied the epochs. We got the information from them about the epochs that these authors were writing in, and so Marty Leibowitz is at the top. I mean, this is not a race, okay, but it's when you go down, you see a lot of old friends, intellectual giants of this business, many people who are in practice as well as scholars. And so Leibowitz and Mayer Statman, Jack Traynor, it's quite an extraordinary list. Roger's in the audience, so you're in this list. But why I plotted it this way is because I was interested in how their careers, in terms of contributions to the journal, overlapped all of these epochs. And so you can see Marty started publishing in that derivatives epoch and continued through into digital assets. To make a long story short, what you can see is some of them on this list, I'm not one of them, contributed, like Bill Sharp, contributed over 6 of these different epochs. So, he's had a sustained influence over all these transitions. That's for the people. Now I'm going to turn to the papers. I'm an academic. I think about papers. Sometimes we say, don't hire the paper, you hire the person. Then they go, nah, let's hire the paper. That's an inside academic joke. It's kind of sad and true. Okay, I wanted to put these up because some of you will recognize them. And I hope you recognize them. I kind of roughly ranked in terms of the historical, the order of citations. The way we academics count up things, we don't look at we don't so much look at authors as we look at the paper, the citation count. So I'll show you that in a minute. But look at these papers. The one Jack Traynor's the one that wrote the one that's illustrated in here, and it's quite funny and beautiful. And maybe don't ask to have a cartoon in your article if you're thinking about it. That was a special thing for him, but he deserved it. So Gene Fama, Random Walk Down Wall Street, that was incredibly impactful in terms of how people thought about managing money. There is Black and Litterman's Global Portfolio Optimization. That's a landmark article. Facts and Fantasies About Commodities. I could go down. Some of my favorites are, of course, Michaud's Markowitz Optimization is optimized optimal. That really scares the MBAs when I teach them about Markowitz, and then I show them what can go wrong if they screw up. So anyway, I will show you a little bit more about that list. But if you sum it all up, there are hundreds of thousands of citations of articles in the FAJ. And again, there's a list if you wanted to compare them. We hope, of course, a lot more. In that list, you will see quite a variety of topics, a lot about performance measurement and portfolio optimization, but an issue that Luis and I wrote on recently and were really mutually interested in is investor behavior and the human side of finance, particularly about how things like AI might affect it. But this will give you kind of a quick cross-section of those. Those articles are all articles that had 1,000 or more citations. I want to talk about why history matters to investment. And look, it matters to me. I love history. I'm fascinated with it. I've got some of my favorite financial archaeologists in this room. We've spent lots of time together and separately thinking about the data and how we can extract useful information from it. What do we do when the data's not there, which is really common. But why does it matter to CFA? You know, and the first thing is long-term planning. Long-term planning requires not just a long-term perspective, it requires long-term data. If you're going to make a decision based on empirical evidence, then you have to gather the evidence and you have to figure out how to put it into a meaningful format that people can use to make a decision that, let's face it, people are making lifetime decisions based on data that we're collecting, analyzing, and thinking about. So long-term data is a foundational, it's a requirement to try and test these theories that people have about long-term rates of return, but also just provide comfort and knowledge about what has happened in the past. One of the most important things about the long-term data, I know many of you know that in a random walk, the standard error decreases with the, I'm looking at Sean, one of my first students. So it decreases with the square root of the standard deviation. So of course you're going to have better and better estimates of the mean if you gather longer time series. But I think most of us are interested in history because strange things happen. And the big events that we really care about, like COVID, like global financial crisis, like the crash of 1929, those things are so rare that you got to go back a long time in history to see things and understand them and see what conditions might have led to them and see if we can learn from them. And then figure out can I survive one of those things? So it's really important for risk management, but also for regulation and other things like that. So we've had the unfortunate situation over the last 15, 20 years of having lived through too many big events. But for an economist, that's great. We can test all sorts of theories. But nevertheless, it makes you wonder whether or not maybe the frequency is increasing. Now, one of the things that will come up in these sessions is not just this idea that more data is better because it makes it easier to estimate a stationary distribution or a distribution that's going to be the same through time. These distributions could change in and of themselves as well. I mean, look, the whole economies of the world over the last 150 years, of course they've been changing and evolving. How do the capital markets, how do the expected returns, how do the risk evolve when you have these changes? And they might not be abrupt. They might be low frequency changes that evolve. Sometimes bonds do well, sometimes they don't. Sometimes commodities do well, sometimes they don't. That is something that we can begin to understand from the data as well. Now, one last thing, bit of promotion. I want you to look at some of the dates on this list. And the reason I'm putting it up is because the CFA and the FAJ has been the long-term, we've been the leaders, the thought leaders in terms of publishing important work in this field. And then returning again and again and again to this question. This is just one of a number of conferences that are about this, and not only conferences, but also things that the CFA Research Institute has been doing regularly as well. So, for example, Rogers' Stocks, Bonds, Bills, and Inflation It was published first as a book by Amer, which then became the Research Foundation. So back in '77, 1 year after his landmark articles with Rex Sinquefield that forecasted the equity premium and measured the equity premium and other premiums as well. It came out with the through the CFA's good graces. Bill Schwert published an early index of U.S. stocks, stock returns. Jeremy's famous book is also accompanied by the equity premium, stocks, bonds, and returns since 1802 in the journal. And then Elroy, Dimson, Marsh, and Staunton's Irrational Optimism is a landmark article as well, also accompanied by a volume. Jeremy's, of course, is accompanied by a book, too. And then, of course, very recently, Ed Macquarie, we got very excited to see Ed returning to data that many of us have compiled through the years, doing a very careful job, and then showing something very interesting about the non-stationarity of the relationship between the two most important assets. So I just want to give a shout out to Larry Siegel. Larry, you've been on this for so long. Larry and I first knew each other in the '80s. That's when we started talking even together about this and teaching about it. Thank you so much for this series, this decade-long series of these revisitations of the equity premium and write-ups that you've done since then, analysis that you've done since then. So you've been central to this whole process in this organization. So anyway, thank you.